Welcome back. It is RacerX, and today I've got a little video planned, and it's actually something that I've been wanting to talk about for just a little while. And you see it kind of buzzing around the automotive industry right now. It's all the regulations that are coming down from the EPA, federal organization, the Environmental Protection Agency, and it has the potential to affect all of our cars out there. If you are a performance car enthusiast, you need to be paying very close attention to what's going on with the EPA. I want to also give you a couple of steps, maybe as something you can do as an automotive enthusiast to maybe help kind of preserve our way of life, if you will. So anyway, guys, if you are new to my channel, do me a huge favor. Slap the subscribe button for me. So much great stuff coming up this year, and we are off. We got the 1,000 horsepower helmet. Now, recently I have been seeing a lot of stuff in the news, on social media, coming out from other YouTubers about what's going on with the EPA and how it may affect the car industry. And it's already been affecting the car industry for actually quite a while. A great example of that is actually out in California. But we'll get into that in just a second. But I think in order to understand the issue holistically, we have to first understand what the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, really is, what it represents, and sort of some of the other groups that it deals with. So when you get on the EPA's website, it literally just says, their mission statement is to protect human health and the environment, which I can get behind. So some of the other groups that they deal with, obviously, so we're talking about things like factory emissions, disposal facilities, chemical safety, obviously all sorts of different pollutants, water safety. They deal with fish and wildlife. They've got a pretty big reach. And as I mentioned, as a federal agency, they have jurisdiction really over the entire country. And while you may have individual states, California being a good example, as I mentioned, where, they've got more strict laws than other states, like where I live in Texas. This could have a far-reaching effect on really the entire automotive industry. So the EPA is out there trying to protect the health of people and the environment. So seems like a pretty solid thing to do. So what is it that the EPA is really doing that has all the automotive enthusiasts really up in arms? Well, I did some research, both on EPA's website and several others, including Sema, which we'll talk about shortly. And basically what's happening right now is they're trying to restrict the right to essentially turn your street car into a race car. And, there are lots of implications to that. So essentially, you cannot produce or market or install racing equipment on a street car. Certainly power adders such as superchargers and turbos, aftermarket camshafts, exhaust systems. Those are all things that they consider to be race car type things. Now, as we know, as automotive enthusiasts, these are things that we absolutely love to put on our street cars to make them unique and make them fun. Obviously, if there's a federal law passed that says we can no longer do that, essentially everybody is just driving around in a car that's sold directly from the manufacturer, directly from the dealership, obviously. And we can't really do a whole lot other than aesthetic things to make our cars different or fun. So obviously, that is a huge issue. Essentially, the EPA is very concerned that these modified vehicles are putting out significantly more carbon monoxide into the air than your standard vehicle that comes out from the manufacturer that's already sort of governed by the EPA. And while there may be some truth to that, obviously they've done a little bit of research to kind of support their findings. Also, there's going to be some huge implications to all these new regulations that are coming down. For example, as they start to go after the tuners out there, the ones that actually make these vehicles go faster and more fun, and as we add these performance parts to them, they are very necessary. And most tuners out there do not run huge, multi-million or billion-dollar, companies. They just don't, right? Most tuners are relatively small in size, and they don't have just a ton of capital out there to float around to pay fines and things like that. And of course, the EPA is very aware of that. Matter of fact, on their website, on the EPA's website, it says there can be fines levied on not only aftermarket's parts manufacturers, but also these tuners out there of $45,000 per vehicle. Obviously, in realistic terms, basically what that means is the EPA can essentially cause these tuners to go bankrupt, and probably a lot of the aftermarket part manufacturers as well. So some very serious things to think about there. So if aftermarket parts sort of go away as a whole, right? I mean, as the EPA continues to sort of crack down on these companies saying, oh no, you can't put aftermarket exhausts on your cars, you can't put intakes, superchargers, turbos, like all that good stuff that we all love to do to make our cars faster and unique, as I mentioned. What happens to things like drag race events? What happens to the actual drag strips where most people go? These drag strips, I mean, you can only hold so many professional events, and who knows, those may go away as well if obviously if the EPA had its way. But I mean, you're talking about putting a lot of people out of jobs here as well. And I'm not trying to say that the environment isn't important, because it is, and I'm trying to kind of get behind some of this EV technology as best I can. Obviously, I'm a muscle car guy, a gearhead, somebody who loves performance cars. So getting behind the whole EV movement is a little bit of a culture shock to me, as it is probably for most of you folks out there as well. And of course, the hybrid technology. You see these companies like Ford and Chevy, and I mean, a lot of them are investing billions into electric vehicle technology. And I feel like, that's what they feel like they have to do, right? I mean, it's like they see the way that things are moving. They see the writing on the wall. So instead of falling behind, they're going to be proactive about it. And I can respect that. But also as a true, just hardcore enthusiast, I mean, it absolutely breaks my heart. I'm really concerned about all the manufacturers out there that have been making these things just for years and years. And I can just rattle off, company after company after company, and think of all the, tens of thousands of people that would probably be out of a job if we no longer got to have these awesome performance parts on our cars and do this racing thing. I also want to add that I have seen several videos on YouTube, and I've seen just posts on Instagram and all that kind of stuff about the EPA is trying to take away my modified car. Well, I mean, I don't necessarily think there's any truth to that per se, right? It's not like the EPA is going to come knock on your door and say, give me your car, and that's just not going to happen. But at the end of the day, emission standards are becoming more strict. And so we still have that piece of it. And not everybody has emission standard, but the states that do not have it, it's probably going to start becoming a thing because, like I said, with the change in administration, there's always new laws. And I don't have a political channel, so I'm not going there with that. But I mean, you always have new laws and new things that kind of come down the pipe that we have to be cognizant of and figure out how to deal with. And this is just part of how things are moving right now. So don't worry about the EPA coming and knocking on your door with a tow truck to take your car off. It's simply not going to happen. But in terms of keeping your car registered and compliant, there may be something there. Another thing you might want to think about is the fact that if you already have a modified car, all of my cars are pretty much modified. And as you continue to need parts for that car, say, something breaks, if you need to go and get something just simply replaced, obviously, if the parts manufacturers can no longer make these things, then chances are you're not going to be able to get those things, and all of a sudden your car is not going to run right. So it is a little concerning. Now, I don't want to be insensitive to really kind of what the EPA represents or people who love the environment, because at the end of the day, I still want to preserve, obviously, my children's future, my children's children, so forth, and so on. And I love our waters and I love our animals and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just trying to be mindful of really the big picture here. But as I mentioned, I am still a car enthusiast at heart. And so really the big question is, well, RacerX, is there anything we can do to try and preserve kind of our car culture? And yes, there is something that we can do. And let me tell you about it.
And I see a whole army of my countrymen here in defiance of tyranny.
So I know that now raises a question, right? Well, RacerX, what can we do? Is there anything we can do to help kind of, make sure that we still have the right to do, modifications to our cars, the right to get out and race these things and generally just have a good time and make them unique? Well, yes, there is. Believe it or not, our friends at Sema have started a petition, and I think that anybody that's a car enthusiast that wants to basically, prevent the EPA from letting us do really all this stuff to our cars, you need to get on Sema's website. I'm actually going to provide a link down in the description below so that you can actually go directly to it. You can sign the petition, which will go to Congress, and hopefully we get enough signatures to actually combat it. It's called the RPM Act. So hopefully we can enact this RPM Act and hopefully keep, not only people employed, but we can keep racing our cars, enjoying modifying our cars, and continue to be the enthusiasts that we're supposed to be.
We've got to try. We can't do this alone.
So my suggestion is don't just sit there and wonder what you can do. Actually go out and do it. Go to Sema's website, sign that petition, be active about it, be outspoken about it. And you've seen it on a lot of other YouTubers' channels. You've seen it kind of on Instagram. I mean, it's just all over the place right now. And we as car enthusiasts, we need to kind of band together. We need to do it quickly and decisively. And hopefully we can make a difference.
For one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
So anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. I felt like it was important for me to just let you guys know my feelings on this, and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, RacerX.